morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR and welcome back to another video. Across 9 generations, Pokemon has amassed more human characters than The Simpsons. And for the most part, these characters stay almost exactly the same throughout their histories. Heck, if they're in Pokemon Masters, odds are that one thing they said offhandedly in a line of text from 20 years ago might just become their defining personality trait. But very rarely, some characters do get revisions that take them from forgettable NPC to fan favorite, whether it be aesthetically speaking or in terms of their contribution to the story. I think the most glaring example of both being done well is Wally. Gen 3 Wally is a curious case of a character. He's a sick little boy who rubs his amazing RNG in your face with a first encounter Ralts every time, who gradually evolves into a proper trainer as the game progresses. By the end of the game, he poses a decent threat to the player at Victory Road. And although many people considered him as a replacement rival for Brendan and May, who both bow out after Lily Cove City, the original games actually never pull the trigger on this. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, however, Wally's arc from trainee to rival is made much more apparent, even though he doesn't get much more screen time than he did in the originals. It's mostly just through some subtle dialogue rewrites that he flourishes into a much more memorable character. A very small detail that Game Freak included in these remakes is that after Mauville City, Wally's name appears in the statues of all the subsequent Hoenn gyms. The Hoenn News Network will also occasionally mention Wally's triumphs on your bottom screen. Even though, let's be honest, who actually had that app open? I want to pet my cute Pokemon, Arceus, dang it! Maybe one of the best decisions on Game Freak's part though is changing Wally's Gardevoir into a Gallade and giving it a Mega Evolution as well. Not only signifying his strength as a trainer, but also to differentiate him from Diantha with our Mega Gardevoir. And I haven't even mentioned that he gets his own encounter theme and battle theme in these remakes. Probably because I don't need to. I know you nerds have been listening to his battle theme on repeat since 2014, you know who you are. With all that being said, Wally is perhaps the greatest example of how a mostly forgettable character was reimagined in a spectacular way. The same can also be said for his fellow Hoenn trainers Maxie and Archie. In the original Ruby and Sapphire, Maxie and Archie are essentially reskins of each other. They have nearly identical dialogue, even in Emerald where they get split apart. They both lack any personality of their own, and design-wise, they're both pretty dry on the drip. But once again, the remakes delivered, not just with Maxie and Archie, but their entire teams getting drastic revisions. I always loved this official art of Team Magma and Aqua that was released with the games, showing how serious and organized Team Magma is compared to this clumsy, rambunctious group of pirates. Also, I didn't even notice till now that the Team Magma poses are meant to form an M when you put them together, which is honestly a pretty cool detail. Am I stupid for not knowing that? Maybe, but Maxie and Archie reflect this best, with Maxie now being this calculated and arrogant nerd, while Archie is this rough and tough sailor. Ironically, this is actually the opposite of how they were portrayed in the Ruby and Sapphire manga, with Maxie being a drunk and Archie being more of a professional schemer. Surprisingly, even the admins got drastic upgrades. I mean, Courtney though? Shelly is arguing, but Courtney? But we can't talk about evil leaders without also discussing the OG, Giovanni. In all of the Kanto-based games, Giovanni just kinda looks like your standard evil businessman. He's got that Elon Musk fit, if you know what I'm saying. His only defining trait is his receding hairline. But my favorite Giovanni design personally comes from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which is also the one that gets used for Black 2 and White 2. Here, Giovanni has gone into hiding after disbanding Team Rocket. He only comes out of the shadows to perform in front of large crowds in Driftvale City, which is kinda whack, but whatever, guy. But here, he has a much more sinister mob boss aura around him. Something about the trench coat and fedora combo suits this guy to a T. But character-wise, Giovanni doesn't get his biggest upgrade until Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where he finally gets Mewtwo added to his team and establishes himself as a multiversal threat. Move over, Kang, you've got nothing on this old Italian dude. But yeah, a lot of people forget that Mewtwo was originally tied to Team Rocket purely through the anime. In the games, Mewtwo was created by an unknown group in the Pokemon Mansion with ties to Mr. Fuji and Blaine. Although some avenues like the Adventures manga have also tried linking them to Team Rocket. It's pretty amazing that it took 21 years before we actually saw Giovanni team up with Mewtwo in a core series game, despite other media linking them together for decades. Speaking of two characters who were initially unlinked but later tied together, we have to discuss Giovanni's son, Silver. While Silver gets a minor design upgrade in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, his biggest upgrade comes in the form of his backstory and character development. Not only do these games finally confirm him as Giovanni's son in the Celebi event after years of teasing from Fire Red and Leaf Green as well as the manga, but this also establishes why Silver hates Team Rocket to begin with. In the original Gold and Silver, he says he merely hates Team Rocket because he perceives them as weak, which isn't far off the mark. They still do use way too many Zubats for my liking, but with the real reason now being that he hates his father for being a failure and abandoning his dream. It gives Silver more depth as a character. Silver also had a decent amount of character development in the original games, as we see that by the time you encounter him at Mount Moon in the post-game, he's matured into a half-decent guy. Heart Gold and Soul Silver take this a step further by showing his actual training arc take place at the Dragon's Den, where you fight alongside him against Lance and Claire. He's still not exactly a nice guy, but he does learn the value of treating Pokemon with love and respect. And to top it all off, I always loved how in his very last battle, his Golbat finally evolves into a Crobat, showing in a subtle way that he did become friends with his Pokemon. It may have taken nearly 50 levels, but hey, better late than never. Just like how it's better for you to sub now than never. Most people watching aren't subscribed, and that hurts my feelings, so why not give it a try? So far, we've only really highlighted rivals and villains, but what about your average gym leader? Well, if there's one that fits the bill for this video, I'm going with Morty. First off, aesthetically, no gym leader gets the upgrade this guy does. I mean, just look at this guy in Gen 2, what's with these light blue and yellow clothes? He looks like he's going to Planet Fitness, not running a ghost-type gym. Bro's got less drip than the Route 111 desert. But simply changing the color palette and giving him this sick scarf that looks like it's inspired by both Mismagius and Drifblim made all the difference. Though he still doesn't have a Misdreavus on his team, so it kinda feels like cultural appropriation. Not cool, man. He gets a minor expansion to his character in Crystal version where it's revealed that he helps his friend Eugene investigate the burned tower, and his dialogue is rewritten to make it clear that he lives in Ecruteak because of his fascination with Ho-Oh. After obtaining his Pokegear number in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, most of his conversations over the phone will be about the various legends of Ecruteak. And in Pokemon Masters EX, he finally achieves his dream of teaming up with Ho-Oh. You'll love to see it. Perhaps the strangest pivot that any Pokemon character ever went through, though, was Annabelle in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Annabelle was originally a Frontier Brain and Emerald, a group of trainers that has mostly been lost to time outside of Pokemon Masters, because Game Freak doesn't believe in acknowledging third version games anymore. And they conveniently skated around the subject by making Annabelle a faller in these titles, or a person who has passed through an ultra wormhole and lost all their memories in the process. Because Annabelle is one of the few people who naturally attracts Ultra Beasts and has the skills to hold them off in battle, she eventually became the chief of the International Police. Certainly an unexpected development, but a welcome one if it allows us to see an old character in a new light. Speaking of the Alola region, it's not often that Pokemon gets a chance to fix a character in the same generation as their debut. More often than not, we have to wait for several years until remakes are made for characters to receive major changes. And even then, you could get Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Which is why it comes as such a surprise that Hau received a proper ending to his character arc in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Now, these games are very divisive for their treatment of both Lily and Lusamine, with many favoring the original Sun and Moon's depiction of them. But at the very least, Hau had the opposite outcome. With so many moving components to Sun and Moon's plot, Hau was pretty much forgotten about by the late game. He had the same exact setup as Barry, where it was well established that he was a young trainer living in the shadow of his more successful family member. But Hau also had another fault, where he was almost too laid back for his own good. His inability to take battles seriously eventually leads to Lily getting kidnapped, making him reevaluate how he approaches battling. One thing I actually didn't know until recently is that Hau is one of the only trainers in the series that you can lose every battle to, and it doesn't change the outcome of the story. After the incident at Aether Paradise, Hau stops his journey to train with his grandfather in Sun and Moon, but in the Ultra games, he stays in the action until the end. When Ultra Beasts attack Melee Island, he's the one to step up and protect his grandfather instead of the other way around. During Mina's trial, the player comes face to face with Hau, who promises that soon they'll have their first serious battle. And this serious battle finally takes place at the Pokemon League of all places, where he replaces Kukui as the main story's final battle. Even in the title defense battles in the post-game, he is always the strongest of all the possible challengers. It may not be as drastic of a revision as some other characters in this video, but it's good to see that they remember to give him a proper ending to his arc the second time around. And for my last talking point in this video, I really wanted to hone in on the games that I believe show the best character progressions in the series, Black 2 and White 2. Being a 2-year time skip after Black and White, many of the characters that we came to know before, like Cheren, Alder, N, and Iris, have drastically different roles this time around. But if I had to choose one character from this generation who I believe has the best arc, it would be Bianca. Bianca is one of the few cases of a character in the Pokemon world whose initial dream doesn't come to fruition. Falling in line with the themes of truth and ideals, she is forced to face the truth that Pokemon battling isn't her strong suit. But in the sequel, she makes the most of her new career path, essentially serving as the game's interim professor, with Juniper being relatively absent this time around. And I know it's not canon to the main series, but seeing Bianca become a Neo champion in Pokemon Masters and team up with Virizion, haha, don't ask me how she got one of those, they never really explained it. It was just oddly satisfying and kinda inspired me to make this video. I think she's one of the more underappreciated Pokemon characters and rivals for sure, because hey, we all want more jerks, not nice girls who figure out what to do with their lives. But I really appreciate the angle they took with Bianca, showing that there's more to life than just being a Pokemon trainer. And with that, thanks for watching today's video. I also want to give a shout out to my newest channel member, Cookie Torchic. Thank you so much for your support. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.